head on. All right, adult types, let's go to 1 John 3. 1 John 3, moving right along. We'll finish 1 John 3 today. We're just killing it, right? All right, I will have you know I was alive at the reading of that. You were not. Well, that's good. Y'all are so young. Y'all are such young bucks. I was, seriously, so it was Christmas, you say Christmas Eve, right? Christmas Eve 68. I was literally being rushed to Longview Memorial Hospital to have emergency surgery as a 3-month-old. So I was projectile vomiting anything and everything that came anywhere near me. And so I had pyloric stenosis, which is a muscle fiber that sort of impedes on the esophagus. And so Mom would feed me, and they would all duck because it was coming back up and coming up hard. And I got down, I want to say, to about 6 pounds. I was born at about 8 pounds, and I got down to 6 pounds after 3 months. And so they said, we may need to do some surgery here. So I was literally being rushed to the hospital. So I have my scar still. They do a scope now. Oh, come on now. They do it scope now. I'm like, are you kidding me? I got like scar. Half my stomach is a scar. All right, here we go. Y'all ready for this? We're going to get into the idea of what does it mean to love our brother, okay? To love one another, all right? I've said it many times. Jesus, on the night before he was crucified, he reestablishes the new covenant. And just like at Sinai 1,500 years earlier, he says, here's the covenant and here's the command. Now, God gave them 10 at Sinai, and Jesus gives them 1. Just one thing. Hey, what do I say? He just had one job, all right? You know, you had one job. Why couldn't you get it done? And I think God is so frustrated with us sometimes because he goes, I just gave you one job. Love everyone. Ready, go. And yet, how many times do we withhold love from other people? And you need to seriously ask yourself today, why am I withholding love from this person, and this person? And I hope the Holy Ghost of God just haunts you for the next month until you start loving that person. All right? Because this is his one command. You have one job. Love one another. All right? So John picks up on this. Why? Why do you think John likes to talk about love, 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 love? All right? Because what did he call himself? I'm the one Jesus loved. All right? Now, I don't think that was an exclusive claim. I think that's just the way he saw himself. Jesus just loved me. He just loved me. So I'm going to call myself in the story the beloved disciple. All right? Because he loved me. He loved me over and over and over. So let's start in verse 10, the backside of verse 10. Last week we looked at several of these, what I call declaration statements. It says the one who is, or everyone who is, or the whoever is this, or is doing this. It's actually what's called a participle, which means it's a verb that acts like an adjective. So it's someone who's doing something. So right now I'm the preaching one. All right? So that word preaching, is it a verb or is it an adjective? Thank you, Derek. I appreciate your affirmation. Yes, it is. All right? So it's a verb, but it describes. Okay? So everybody see this? Okay? English 101. All right? Congratulations. You passed. So his statement here, the backside of 10, whoever does not do or whoever is not doing what is right is not of God. Now, some of us need to just own that. All right? How often this week did you go, you know what? That was not the right thing to do. That was not the right thing to say. That was not the attitude I wish I would have portrayed in that moment. That was not right. Dikaios, justified. It means to do the right thing. All right? Just simply that. Whoever does not do what is right is not of God. So whoever you were in that moment, God was not going, that's my boy. God was going, I don't know who that is. I had nothing to do with that. Why are you carrying my name in vain? You call yourself a follower of Christ, but yet look at what you just did. Look at what you just said. And we need to own that. We need to be hyper vigilant about this. Why? Because the very eternal salvation of the person you were talking to was on the line. Imagine if we started living like that. Imagine if that became our concern, that became our heartbeat, that the very salvation of that individual, eternal salvation, was on the line when I interacted with them. And did I do beautiful works? Did I do kalos ergon, beautiful, excellent works, so that they see what I just did and they glorify this God that they've never even thought about, which leads them to a pursuit of the cross, and then they are saved. Do you see how your actions live out every single day? Whoever does not or is not doing what is right is not of God, especially the one who does not love his brother. Doing the wrong thing, that's one thing, but especially when you don't love your brother, all right? So we need to be thinking, how can I be loving? How can I be this loving person that I need to be? It was interesting to preach this yesterday, or to preach a similar kind of thing yesterday at Church Under the Bridge, because I'm sitting there telling people who have absolutely no material possessions whatsoever, most of them, besides what they have on them, to love your brothers. Love your brothers. And I said, I don't care if it's just giving someone a smile. I said, how many of you have smiles? You can smile at someone and love on someone with a smile. And they smiled at me, and it was like not a lot of teeth. Just got to be honest. All right? It was just kind of funny in that moment. It was like, okay, I almost said, just show your teeth to people. Just smile and show your teeth. And I was like, oh, don't say that. All right? But it's as simple as that. How can you love people? I told him yesterday, I said, imagine if you started a love journal, okay? Now, that's not what you're thinking, Derek, okay? That's your little black book, okay? Back from your bacheloring days, okay? Still got it? All right, yeah, I'm sure you do, all right? Now, what if you started a journal and you sat down every night and went, these are the people I love today, and this is how I love them? How full would your journal be? How many entries would you have in there? How many entries would you have? Today, I saw this person. I greeted them. I spoke to them. I encouraged them. I gave them this. I prayed for them. I did this. What was it? What would it be if you sat down every night and said, here's who I love today, and here's how I love them? Man, I think that might be a very telling tale of this verse. Whoever does not do what is right is not of God, especially the one who does not love his brother. For this is a message you've heard from the beginning. And it's more of a prayer than it is a statement here. Your translation probably says we should love one another. It's a prayer. May we love one another. May we be these kind of people. May we love one another. Unlike Cain, all right, don't be like Cain. He was a murderer. Verse 13. Do not be surprised, brothers, if the world hates you, all right? Imagine if you love people, and they still hate you. Guess what? Welcome to Christianity. Welcome to Christianity. Imagine if you just love people, and they still turn on you, all right? Hey, John's going, yeah, and? That's like Tuesday for me, okay? But does that deter us? No, not if your motivation is right. And we'll get to that here in just a second. 14, we know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers. All right? So we move from one side to the other. We move from death to life. Another way that John has said this over and over is we move from darkness into what? Light. We move, we've gained something. We've progressed in some way. We've changed the dynamics. We've moved from one side to the other. And that's what I want us to talk about today. How do we get from one side to the other? Because look at the next line. We know we pass from death to life because we love our brothers. But the one who does not love remains where? In death, in darkness. I don't want to love people. I don't want to give of my possessions. I don't want to do these things. I just want to have everybody love me. Everybody needs to love me, and I'm not going to waste my time loving other people because people just take advantage of me when I love them. People just take advantage of me when I forgive them. People just take advantage of me. So, Did Jesus go, love one another unless they take advantage of you? Then don't do it anymore. No, that is so petty. That is childish faith. All right? That is not what Christ has called us to. That's not what John heard at all. He says, here's what we want to do. We want to love one another. Any questions? Yeah, what about? No, love one another. Any other questions? Yeah, what about? Nope, love one another. Do I have to forgive people? Yep. How many times? Yep. Why? Because that's why you've been left here, to love on people, to be salt in this community, to be light in this community, to be an ambassador to the people at your workplace, so that they too can understand and know the love of Christ. And they're only going to see it when they see it in you. And every time you fail to show the love of Christ, you give them evidence that what we believe is untrue. It's just our crutch that gets us through the day. Please don't be those people. Do not be those people. 15, everyone who hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. 3:16, all right? Now run with that, because I don't believe it's a coincidence that 3:16 tells us this. I believe the people that did the little numbers went, ooh, let's make sure this is the 16th verse right here, okay? This is how we have come to know, all right? Now that's very different from believe. To come to know something is, over time, you see it, and you see it, and you see it, go, that's what this is. That's love. That's love. I'm coming to know this. It's a process. This is how we have come to know love. Number one, he laid down his life for us. Christ himself laid down his life. Here is my life. And this word for is a big word here. It means on behalf of. He laid down, it doesn't just say he laid down his life, period. He laid down his life on your behalf. I was in college, and a friend of mine bought me a ticket, all right? He bought a ticket for me, on my behalf, to wrestling. Wrestling, all right, if you're old school, all right? The Tallahassee Community Civic Center, hosting wrestling. And my friend goes, we got to go. And I'm like, I'm in, let's go. And so my friend bought a ticket for me on my behalf, right? He put his money down, and I said, I'll pay you back. We go, and I'm sitting there probably about 10 minutes, and I just looked at him and said, I cannot pay you back for this. I will give you any amount of money you want for anything else. I will take you to dinner anywhere else, but I am not going to have it be said of me that I paid money to watch this. I was so embarrassed in this moment. But he had paid his money for me, on my behalf. You see what happened here? You see this little word for? This is huge. He laid down his life for you, on your behalf. That is the story of Christianity. Now, I don't know how it got lost in be nice to people. That's the story of Christianity. Go ask your world. What is the essence of Christianity? Be nice. That's what your world thinks. You know why? Because that's what you walk around telling them. Or by sheer absence of what you tell them, that's what they assume. How many times do we tell them the logos, the word, the story, the gospel, the good news? The good news is not go be nice. How many if I come in here and go, be nice, you go, yay! No! But see, the evangelist in the first century would come and say, our armies defeated the bad guys. We will not be enslaved. And everybody went, yay! When you hear the logos, when you hear the gospel, there should be something in you that goes, yay. When I say Christ laid down his perfect life in your place, on your behalf, so that you could spend eternity with the Heavenly Father, something in you should go, yay. Something in you should say, thank you. Especially you Southern folks. You should be out there writing thank you notes to Jesus, okay? Because that's what you're supposed to do, right? But what do? We sit in our building, and then we go out there and be nice. We sit in here in the building and just gather and gather and gather and gather, and then we go out in the world and we're just nice. How often do we actually speak the logos to the people around us? Love on the people in our world with the gospel message, the Logos. This is how we've come to know love. One, he laid down his life for us. That's the story. That's the Logos that's in here. Look at the next sentence, though. We should also lay down our lives for, on behalf of, on the account of, who? Our brothers. Now, let's kind of break this down a little bit, because this word should in here, all right, does anybody have a different word for should? Ought. All right, we have ought. What do you have? You have must. That's a little strong. Okay, that's okay. Ought is probably a little better. It's literally an accounting term that I am obligated. I owe something. All right? Now, John is not saying Christ laid down his life to set up a debt that I have to pay. No, John is taking this on himself. He says, he laid down his life for me on that cross. I sense an obligation. I sense something, an indebtedness. This is kind of this idea, the must of this. John is saying, I must do this. It's like I have to pay back my college loans. I have to pay my credit card bill. I have to pay the speeding ticket. I have to do this. That's an obligation that he feels. So the Logos is what? He laid down his life for me on my behalf. That's the story, period. That's the essence of Christianity right there. Now, the pathos, all right, the feeling, sympathy, empathy. How do you feel about the fact, the Logos, that he laid down his life for you? John feels what? He senses an obligation, an owing, an oughtness, a mustness, all right? I got to do this. I can't just sit here and take this in and then just go be nice to people. Not actually love on them, just don't be mean to them. You know, I'll ignore this and I'll ignore that, but what's the ethic though? The ethos, the Logos is he laid down his life for us. The pathos is I feel a huge sense of obligation to this. I have to say thank you. I challenge our FCA coaches over and over again. I said, here, you want to know what it means to be a Christian? You want to know what it means for your students, your athletes to follow Christ, to know they are saved? Put them before that cross and say, you can't get up until you say something to Christ on that cross. And I dared them, what do you say? And they all said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Why would you say thank you to something that you don't believe you really needed? And why would you say thank you with this thanks when it's something as big and it's impactful as your eternal salvation? He laid down his life. This is how you know love. You want to know what it means to love? He laid down his life, the Logos. I feel an indebtedness. So now my ethic, my ethos is what? I'm going to walk around for the next 40 years. I'm guessing I got 40 in me. I think I got 40 in me. I got 95 easy. All my kinfolks on this side, they all hit mid-90s. I'm good. Y'all see me at 95, all right? Hopefully I won't be still up here preaching, all right? I'll be sitting down or something, okay? What's my ethos for the next 40 years? I want to live my life just like he laid down his life. He laid down his life, so my oughtness, my owing is to do what? Lay down my life for others. Now, when I get to about the fifth person, am I good, Mike? 5 people? Is that enough? He laid down his life for me so that I could spend eternity with him. Therefore, you know what? If I get my little punch card and hit 5 people, am I good? I can start being selfish again? No. This is why he says, he didn't say, love one another, and then after a couple of times you're good. He says, this is how you're going to live the rest of your life. This is my commandment. Love one another. This is how you come to know God. Number 1, Logos. He laid down his life for us. Pathos. I ought to do something. And what is that something I ought to do? I ought to lay down my life for my brothers. 17. If anyone has this world's goods. This is the Greek word bios. It literally means life-sustaining. Bios, biology, okay? Life-sustaining goods, all right? When the widow puts the 2 coins, she gave all she had to what? Live on. Bios, all right? So if anyone has this world's goods and sees, theomai, theater, we get a word theater from this, all right? We observe his brother in need, but closes his what? What do you have? We have eyes. Yeah, eyes would make sense, and that's how they translate it. That's not the word. It's not the word ophthalmos. What do you have? Heart. All right, good. You got the ESV, right? All right, oh, you can always count on that. Anybody got King James? What'd you have, Ken? You have heart? You have King James? You have to look it up. All right, I love it. All right, King James, this is the idea. Bowels. All right, ooh, who closes their bowels? That's just nasty, Shannon. Come on now. We're not going to talk about that in church. Yeah. Hey, guess what? That's the word. It's the word splagnon. All right? We get the word spleen from this, which is somewhere in here. Oh, Christy's never here when I need my medical stuff. Okay? It's around here somewhere. All right? Around the heart. Okay? Splagnon. Jesus walks onto a beach and he sees a crowd and he has what? Compassion for them. He has splagnizomai for them. It's probably my favorite Greek word. I like to say splagnizomai, all right? But look at the thing. I have the world's needs. I see my brother in need. I see him vulnerable. I see him needing life-saving things. And I do what? I close my what? My compassion. And John asked the question, are you still calling yourself a Christian? How can you say that the love of God or that God resides within you when you have this, see this, and yet do what? Literally, to close. It's to close the door, to close off my compassion. Imagine quenching that compassion. You go, oh, I feel so sorry for that guy. And somebody goes, don't feel sorry for that guy. He's, and you go, oh, okay. Again, John asked the question, how can God abide in that person? How can that person to claim the name of Christ? Again, do not take the name of God in what? For nothing, in vain. But yet I go out there, I'm a Christian, and I do what? I have goods, I have possessions that can help, I see need, and yet I do what? I'm not going to feel for that person. Your life should be consumed with compassion for other people. Even if it's just a smile, if it's a kind word, if it's possessions, if it's whatever. Now, John's going to say this. Little children, we must not love with word or speech, but with truth and action. Now, he's not saying don't love people with word and speech, all right? Sometimes that's all they need. They just need a word of encouragement. But sometimes they need more than that. They need truth and they need works. Ergon, they need works. Skip down here to 23. Now, this is the command that we believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he commanded us. That's what we do. We believe in the name of Christ. We believe in the story. We believe that he laid down his life for us. We are profoundly impacted by that, and then we, ethos, go love on people. Paul says it this way, don't worry about circumcision, don't worry about uncircumcision. That has no iskuo, no strength. What matters is how your faith, what you believe, energizes your love for other people. So you want to know what the Christian faith is? You want to know what Christianity, what it means to carry the name of Christ, to call yourself a Christian? It means this, I have the story, and it just overwhelms me so that I live in this beautiful way. So that every breath I take energizes me to love other people, to look after the needs of other people, to see, to have these possessions, to see their need, and not to close my compassion, but to go, who needs stuff? Who needs me to love them? And you get up every day, and your love journal is so full, you have to turn another page and another page because you spent all day long just trying to love on people in the simplest, but yet most profound ways. Now, John's going to write in here. He says, I want you to have boldness when you stand before Christ. I want you to have boldness. He says it in 1 John 2:28. He says it right here in verse 21. Dear friends, if our conscience doesn't condemn us, we have confidence before God. Now, here's where we're going to divert in here. You see, go to Matthew 25. Go to Matthew 25. I'll talk while you're looking because context is king, all right? So Jesus, Ashley just described this, that Jesus was going out of the temple and the redneck boys from the lake up north in Galilee are going, dang, look at that. That's awesome, all right? They're going, wow, that's the coolest place I've ever seen. And Jesus says what? It's all going to be torn down. It's all going to be torn down. And it kind of shuts them up. They go down the Kidron Valley, go back on the Mount of Olives. And after a while, 4 of them, Peter, Andrew, James, and John, the author of this letter, John sits down with Jesus and go, all right, you got to unpack this. You got to tell us what you were talking about. Tell us when these things are going to happen. The temple's going to be destroyed. But tell us also when you're going to come and the end of the age. And so Jesus just unpacks it all right there in front of them. Here's what's going to happen. 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 All right? Then I'm going to send forth my angels to gather the elect. I'm going to bring y'all all home. All right? He says, so pay attention. When the fig leaves start to do their thing, you know the season's near. And don't be like Noah and the people of Noah's time. They were just out doing their thing, partying it up, doing marriage, all that stuff. All right? And then, boom, it came. And they weren't ready. He tells them 3 parables. He tells a parable of the slave who was ready and the alternative of what if he hadn't been ready. The slave that was ready was doing what? What the master wanted. He tells the parable of the 10 virgins who some had their lamps, the sensible ones had their lamps, and the morons in the group, did not have enough oil, so they were not ready for the return of the bridegroom. And then he tells the story of the talents, all right? 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent. The master goes away and then comes back. You see a pattern here? The master goes away. Jesus is ascended into heaven, and then he comes back. Are you ready to face the judgment when he comes back? Was the slave ready when his master came back? Was the virgin ready when he came back? The guy with 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, was he ready when he came back? Had they been doing the work that the master wanted them to? And then he goes into Matthew 25. Go here with me. We got just enough time. 31. Y'all with me? That wasn't very exciting. Y'all with me? All right, just checking, make sure you're awake. In verse 31, he says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory. Now, isn't that what John just said? John just said, I want you to have boldness and not be ashamed when he comes back. Because I was sitting on the Mount of Olives when he told me he's coming back. All right? So I'm ready for him. When the Son of Man comes and all his angels with him. Again, it's not going to be you on the white horse with your white little linen robes. All right? You would hurt yourself. Okay? You'd probably fall off getting Jesus' way. All right? The angels are going to come back with him. He will sit on the throne, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them one from another, just as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. Sheep over here, goats over here. And the sheep and goat do what? Okay. All right? No, I mean, he directs them. All right? He will put the sheep on his right. Good job, guys. Y'all sat well today. You get to be good people. You get to be the sat on my right. Okay? Now, unfortunately, that means you guys are the goats on the left, okay? And let me be clear. Who do you think y'all are? Why are y'all in the middle? And let me be real straight. There's only the right and the left. Aunt Gertrude, who was really sweet but didn't want anything to do with Jesus, she's on one side or the other. There is no middle. Yeah, you're welcome to move if you need to, all right? Just go the right way, all right? Go from death to life, from dark to light, okay? There is no middle ground. With your family, with your friends, with the people you encounter on a daily basis, they will not be, they were a nice person. They're probably going to go to heaven. No, they won't. Because you will either fall on one side or the other. All right? And that cross determines which way you go. And what you say to that cross determines which way you go. So in this moment, then the King Jesus, will say to those on his right, congratulations, you guys, come, you who are blessed by my Father. This is a Greek word, eulogia, all right? You've been to a funeral, somebody says really nice things about a really horrible person, that's a eulogy. Good words, logos, spoke good words. By who? Blessed by my Father. I love this, because y'all studied it in 242, and we saw it back with Ahab. Who picked up on the fact when Ahab humbled himself? Did Elijah, the mighty prophet of God? No. God's going, hey, did you see what Ahab did when he humbled himself? This week we looked at Manasseh. He humbles himself, all right? And God says I saw him to be spoken well of by the Father. Do you live your life in that way? Do you love people in a way that God says, that's one of mine? Look at the way they speak to people. Look at the way they look at people. Look at the concern they have. The compassion is not closed off. It's poured out. Come, you who are spoken well of by my Father. Where? Into what? The kingdom prepared for who? You. From the foundation of the world. Verse 35 starts with for. You always want to ask the question, why? Why? Why should I get to go? For I was hungry and you did what? You did something. You gave me food. Here we go. I have the world's needs. I see the need. I close off my compassion. I pour out my compassion. And I give this to them. Okay? Again, Christ died in my place. I sense an overwhelming obligation. I sense an overwhelming amount of gratitude, which always manifests itself in generosity. Let me say that one more time. True gratitude always manifests itself in generosity. That's my ethos. Because he laid down his life for me. I had this overwhelming urge, sense, compulsion, propulsion to do what? To love on other people. So, hungry, thirsty. I like this phrase because in the Greek, it's literally, you watered me. I was thirsty and you watered me, okay? I feel like a plant. Somebody pouring water on me, all right? I was a stranger and you took me in. This is the word for synagogue. You gathered me. And the synagogue was the gathering place for the Jewish people in the first century. They would gather in the synagogue, the synagogue. And he says, I was a stranger, and not only did you just sort of deal with me, you invited me into you. That was profound in the first century. I was naked, and you clothed me. Now, again, the Greek, this is why I teach the Greek so much, because I want you to see the depth of this. This is the Greek word peribalo. Balo is to throw. Peri means what? P-E-R-I, perimeter, around. Now, have you ever taken a coat and not just thrown it to a person? All right? Derek, when you put Jessica's coat on, do you just kind of throw it to her and go, here, put your coat on? Or do you put it around her? Be careful. Be careful. Mike, I know you're a good husband. You put that around. Now, what if your kids? Your kids are cold. They're getting out of the pool, all right? It's pool season. They're getting out, and it's getting a little kind of cold outside. You know, we're hitting in September, October. They get out of the pool, and they're like, they're kind of bluish. What do you do with that towel? Throw it to them? No, what do you do? Parents, what do? You wrap that thing around them, and then you give them a big hug, right? Because you got 4 seconds of hug time right there. Right, Whitney? All right? You throw it around them. You wrap it around them. To a naked stranger? Is that what you do? Paul says the living sacrifice will practice diokantos philozenian. You want to, what does that mean? Diokantos, to chase down. Philo, love. Zenian, the stranger. You chase down the stranger to show them love. That's what a living sacrifice who has recognized and renewed their mind to what Christ did on the cross, overwhelmed by a sense of gratitude, the ethic becomes what? How can I love on you? How can I wrap this coat around you? I was sick, and you took care of me. Literally, you looked in on me. I was in prison. That's a bad thing, right? And you came to me. Now, when you come to someone in prison in the first century, what have you just done? You just associated yourself. Why did Peter deny Christ 3 times? He did not want to be associated with him. You see the dynamic in the first century? And yet, what are all these things? Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry, thirsty, stranger, without clothes, sick, prison? And the king will answer them, I assure you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. Now, y'all feel pretty good about yourself, right? You're sitting there, you're getting all these accolades, you're going, wow, that was awesome, I get to go into the kingdom. Now, how are y'all feeling? Because you were separated for a reason. You middle people, y'all don't even count. Y'all don't even exist, okay? How you feeling? DJ, you feeling confident right now? You thinking, well, I'm not so bad. I went to church. Who cares? I walked in the building. Who cares? Because you know you have not done what? The hungry, the thirsty, the naked, the in prison, sick. You have closed off your compassion from them and said, I don't want to be a part of that. So how are you feeling? How are you feeling when the king says, come, you who are blessed, my Father, into the kingdom prepared from the foundation of the world. Good job, well done, excellent. Now you. Look at these words. This should scare you. Depart from me, you who are cursed, into eternal fire prepared for who? Not for unbelievers. Y'all see that? Hell was never prepared for unbelievers. Hell was never prepared for the degenerate, the rebellious, any of those things. Hell was prepared for the devil and his angels. And when we fail to love other people, when we fail to have that ethos, because we never had the pathos, we never had the urgency to be grateful for the very story of what Christ has done on our behalf, when we fail to love people, what is the consequence? We share in the consequence of Satan himself. I was hungry, and guess what you did? Nothing. I was thirsty, and guess what you did? Nothing. Stranger? Nothing. Naked? Nothing. Sick and in prison? Nothing. You did absolutely nothing. When you had all these opportunities to love people, you had all these opportunities to practice an ethos compelled by the beauty of the Logos. And I don't know where the disconnect was. Maybe you just sat in church so long and they went, be nice, be nice, be nice. And you went, okay, dokie, I'll be nice. That's why I'm on Megan all the time. I'm like, are we telling them the gospel? Are we sharing the catechisms with them? Do they hearing the gospel message? I don't want us to have a children's ministry of go be nice. I want to have a children's ministry that says, here's what Christ has done for us, so that we will be those people. Then they too will answer, Lord, when did we see you hungry, thirsty, stranger, without clothes, sick, and in prison, and not help you? This is the Greek word diakonos. All right, we get our word deacon from this. When did we see you on this and not help you? That's why when I got into this church, I said, you know what, I know we've got deacons, but I'm not really big into the deacon thing. It just becomes a bunch of people who tell the pastor what they should and shouldn't do, and it's just trouble. I said, let's just make everybody diakonos, helpers. Everybody in the church seeks out someone who has need. Everyone pays attention to the people around them, and they seek to help them, to turn their compassion over and go after them. But what do? Oh, no, that's the deacon's job. That's not my job. Sorry, not going to happen. Not going to happen as me as your pastor. I want all of you to have your eyes wide open, looking for people who need help, because that is your opportunity to bring glory to your Father for what he did on that cross. And how do you feel about that? Look at what happens to them. Then he will answer them, I assure you, whatever you did not do for the least of these, you did not do for me either, and they will go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into eternal life. Am I saying if you do nice things for people, you go to heaven? No. No. Not at all. Because he didn't lay down his life for no reason. Y'all with me? It doesn't say if I lay down my life for others, then I get to go to heaven. Because then you've completely missed the first part, and now you're filled with pride because you did lay down your life for others. Oh, don't ever, ever, ever forget the beginning of the story, which leads to the motivation of why you live your life the way you do. So the lesson here is not go out and be nice, go out and love people. No, go and sit at the foot of that cross until you can't help yourself but to love one another. Let's pray. Father,